share, I know today. So first of all, we want to talk to you, Barry. Your passion, your love is this senior accredited agent, as I get the accredited senior agent designation program. I mean, you do a lot more than that. You're an appraiser, arbitrator, mediator, broker. You have given expert testimony of more than 500 trials.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you also later, what is a forensic real estate expert? Because I like the sound of that. But tell us about this accredited senior agent program. What's this all about?
Well, the accredited senior agent program is very simplistic. Any realtor could sell a senior's home. It's just that simple. But the problem is that once they sell it, that's the service. Accredited senior agent, it's different. The accredited senior agent takes over and has, let's say, helps the people with an ease. Now, you take in a situation, either a senior is downsizing, or there's an estate, or they have to put mom or dad in a home. You've got homes that are 30, 40, 50 years with accumulated things in the house. How do you deal with that? Most of these people, and not everybody has children that live near them, may have to fly in. Our ease is that we will come in, we will not only just list the house, we will help get rid of everything. We will work with professionals to do it. Then what else is, we are trained, our people are trained to recognize problems. Somebody says, well, of course, I've got the cottage, I've got the store I used to own, or investors say, whoa, you've got a capital gain problem here. We need to send you to a tax specialist. Or we have a complication here, a complication there, we need to change your will. Gary's the lawyer, but bluntly, it's been said 50% of Canadians don't have wills. I've had experts tell me that that's optimistic. It could be as low as 38% of Canadians have wills. We teach people how to change. They had a kid, let's say, that 20 years ago divorced, but the old spouse is still on the will, in the will.
Right.
So senior agents are trained for very complex situations, not to give advice, but to recognize a problem to help the people solve their problem by sending the right expert.
Okay, we also, I just want to mention that this is a call-in show and it's an interactive show. So people can call in. We'll show you the number on the screen there, 665-7500. And also if you're watching on Ustream, you can jump on there and give us your comments or questions that way. So this is a big opportunity. I mean, with the aging population, Barry, this seniors are going to need this kind of help more and more, I expect.
Well, we can help with seniors, but we can also with families. And there's also people that have no family at all. So what do they do? And how do they handle it? It's an overwhelming. See, it's like being in an apartment building. There's two types of tenants, as we know. There's tenants by choice, which is the smaller group of tenants. They want to be tenants. And there's tenants by circumstance. They're there because that's what they can afford to be. It's the same thing with a senior. A lot of seniors will they'll make a move because they want to leave the city, move from a small town to the big city to the small town. Some people sell the residence in the city to take over their cottage. Some will just downsize to a smaller place. And those are choice, but a large percentage won't move until they're forced to move. And that's tough because you've got a reluctant seller.
Right. So does that make, I mean, do some real estate agents try and avoid dealing with seniors because they're afraid that it's going to be too much work?
The pain in the butt factor is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Right.
And what we're training people to do is it's a step-by-step process. And it's logical. I'll give you an example. One of our associate members now was for years doing mediation and with divorces, with families who are divorcing. She switched her practice, seeing the future, to now mediating for seniors, for families who know there's going to be fights within the family while mom and dad are still alive to stop the squabbling up front, or when the kids inherit. And it's a showing how professionals are changing, because demographically, the amount of people over 60 in Canada, it's one of the highest growing numbers of all. And yet kids under 15 are diminishing. We're not going to have kids.
So,
by the way,
I just wanted to add something that you're not just dealing with the senior, the senior couple. It's the children as well. So in all the decision making, you're involving the mother, the father, but there's also the kids. The children are also involved. So in terms of, the pain in the butt aspect to it, you're not dealing with one person or two people, you're dealing with a group of people. And the difficulty from my experience is from, clients, the children going in, they got to go through, could be 40 years plus of history there, the pictures, the clothes, what is kept, what isn't kept.
The treasures and the trash.
Absolutely. And you know what? The service provided by Barry and his group has just been tremendous. It's a positive advance, the way I see it, because there was no one really out there for older people. And this is a group of agents who specialize in this age group. So, it's great.
We're 800 people now, 800 members in Canada, mostly Ontario. We're now in British Columbia, and we have members in Quebec.
So these are real estate agents?
Realtors. They have to be realtors, because the one thing is the code of ethics is very strong. We have to have control. Before they can become, after they take the course, we have to check them out with the local registrars to make sure that, now I'm not complaints. We're talking about ethical complaints, not because somebody put a sign on the wrong property. That's a slap. We're talking about real, honest complaints. Our people are ethical, and that's very, very important. They have to have clean records. They have to have been in the business a minimum of 3 years minimum. On average, our members are 15 years on average.
Barry was saying that the number of people who have wills is like...
Sure.
What's been your experience?
You know what? My experience, I would probably say 50% or less do not have wills. And the other thing is, you can start off with a will. Unfortunately, life happens.
Yep.
And you end up with spouses dying. There's divorces. You'd be surprised how many people go through a divorce, and if you took out their will, it has their ex-spouse as the party receiving the estate. Someone passes away. So not only do many people not have a will, but people don't review their wills.
Absolutely.
I would say wills should be reviewed at least every 3 to 5 years.
And then the other
Circumstances change. Your children get older. Who you want to leave it to. Parties, life changes.
But have some fun too, Gary.
I never regarded
fun
wills
with the
as
will?
fun.
Yes, I put about 10
lot of fun.
assets that I don't have
That's
in the
probably-
will.
yeah.
I'm going to drive those kids crazy. They're going to remember me for years. There's a Ferrari that's in a garage somewhere,
Right.
and jewelry and safety. It's just fun. Have some fun with the will.
So-
Stash that stuff. Just say it's all there, but just don't tell them where.
Don't give it.
No,
Oh, so
just don't
you
tell
give it to them, just don't tell them where anything is.
That's right.
That sounds like
And
fun.
they go
fun.
hunting for
That's right. But they will remember you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily fondly.
So how big is the opportunity? I mean, we hear the figures that the population is aging.
There are over 2 million residences in Canada that are owned or controlled by people over the age of 60. And they control most of the wealth in this country. And it's just that
That's
simple.
very true.
They control the majority of the wealth. And yet, if you look at the real estate market the last 10 or 12 years, the way it's been going, first-time buyers. It's all been driven by these first-time buyers, building more filing cabinets in the sky in the city of Toronto. I mean, it's all great, but there's a bit of a pyramid situation here. You always need another person at the bottom to buy up.
Okay, so I just want to mention again, the phone line is open, 416-665-7500. You want to give us a call. If you have a question for any one of us about the senior agent program, or Barry, you're also an appraiser, arbitrator, mediator, and broker. We have Gary's a real estate lawyer. I'm a mortgage broker. I want to ask you about mortgages, because people hear a lot about reverse mortgages.
Yes.
When people are getting older, they want to stay in it. Is that a product you'd recommend?
Yes and no. What I'm looking at in reverse mortgages is they're good if you go in with your eyes wide open, because we know that with certain math. Now, let's just turn around. It's not evil. They were, because they've now brought their interest rates down to competitive interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
And their cost and everything else. So they're now competitive. There's only one lender in Canada at this moment.
Right. Is that CHIP?
CHIP program.
Mm-hmm.
And what has happened is it's a good alternative, but if I'm 60 years old and I take out a reverse mortgage, the odds are my kids aren't going to hear it, zero. If I'm 80 years old and I want to stay for 3 or 4 more years in my house and want to fix up the boiler or the furnace and fix a roof and stay there for a few, it makes a lot of sense. But there's other ways. You can get an equity loan, you can get line of credit. So there's alternatives to reverse mortgages that are out there for the seniors, and they make sense. I believe that the product is good and evil depending on your knowledge and how long you're going to have it.
And also the need. Every need is different.
Absolute. No.
But there is a real purpose for it.
But if there's people that die without having any heirs, might as well enjoy their life. They don't. What do they care? Max it out and live their life.
Okay, what is a forensic real estate expert? Did you make up the term? Is that anything like CSI Miami?
Well, I do in a way look at dead bodies, but it's dead real estate deals. A large part of what I'm doing, I'm specializing today. I deal with real estate stigma and real estate agency. When a real estate agent's gone awry, either being sued, rightfully or wrongly, I get called in. And part of my job is to rip apart the Real Estate Act and to see if they complied.
If the real estate agent complies.
Has complied. The other thing is stigma. I've got people right now, I've got a family of 6 living in their garage for 3 years because of what's gone on where the insurance company screwed up the renovation. Started with a water just dripping out of a toilet. It got so bad the house is condemned today. The insurance company is screaming, they're suing the contractor. They don't want to help the people. The people are living in this garage. And that's one of the cases I'm dealing on right now. And where I come in is I'm going through step by step all the stigma, all the problems. There happens to be a mold issue. There happens to be exposure issues. There happens to be vermiculite insulation issues. So with all these issues, there's legal aspects. What are the loss in value? And they want to fix the house. My argument is you can't fix the house. It's stigmatized. No matter what you do, you're putting perfume on a pig. You can't fix the house. So that's part of the, I'm having any given day about a dozen open files for litigation on my desk.
Do you come across grow houses very often?
Constantly. I've got one right now in Toronto where it wasn't disclosed to him by the seller or by the realtor. Now the question is, did the realtor know? That's what I'm digging in. That's the forensic. What should the realtor have known?
Is there any hope restoring a grow house to a regular house, or should they just normally tear them down?
Absolutely, they can be restored, but there's a big but, and the question becomes how long. There's no statute of limitations under the Real Estate Act in the province of Ontario as to how long you disclose. And I'll give you an example. How I fell into this is in 1980-81, they banned urea formaldehyde foam insulation. And a group got together called HUFI, Homeowners with Urea Formaldehyde Foam Insulation. And somebody said, we need an appraiser. And they threw my name out. I had no clue what to do because there were no sales. Eventually, I did over 1,000 homes that had UFI over the years. And I went to court 40 or 50 times on trial to the point that I became, quote, the expert on UFI. Grow ops. All stigma is similar. And what happened is, under the law, technically, if a house that had UFI removed in 1981 sold today, 30 years later, and each year it had sold, every real estate agent involved had to disclose that it was there all the time. And there's something wrong with that. It's labeling a house, it's stigmatizing that house by forced legislation. Right. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
So you think that should be removed, that people...
There has to be a statute of limitation. If the place was if it was removed 25, 30 years ago, and you've got all the governments, because you can't just remove it, you need people that have certain credentials, then it's clean as far as I'm concerned. Now, but there is a stigma factor because of the legislation.
The question I'm always asked is, when does a grow house stop being a grow house? And you can remediate it.
Yeah.
You can have all the paperwork on it. The problem is that there is this duty of disclosure.
That's right.
And it just carries on. It's almost as if you wish that at some point there's a break where some agent doesn't know about it, doesn't disclose, and it's almost like a fresh start for that house. But really, the house is tarnished.
And here's the other problem. In the
And we're
United
dealing
States-
with, but it also goes on to the financing.
Yes.
Very few lenders will do financing on a
That is a
grow
big
house.
problem.
And insurance. You can get.
Oh,
you
yeah,
you can't
that's
get-
right.
I have houses. I have one house right now. They've had 10 backups in their sewer system. They can get fire and theft, but they can't get perils. And if the mortgage lender knew, they wouldn't insure them. In the United States, about 30-something states have disclosure laws that are very strict. California, for instance, if there's been a murder, there's a statute of limitations. After 3 years, it does not have to be disclosed. We don't have anything like that here. And the other problem here is there's stricter rules for the real estate people. There's legislation that if the real estate agent knows or ought to have known, they're liable. They have to disclose it. Yet there's not that legislation necessarily in open for the seller. So what I get involved also is what did the seller know?
Right.
And that's forensic. Sometimes we've caught people. We had a fraud case where the guy swore he didn't know he was contaminated. Swore. I found a year and a half earlier he appealed his assessment. Well,
On that basis.
on the basis of having it.
Okay, so you are an expert in these areas, appraiser, arbitrator, mediator, broker, forensic real estate expert, Barry Lebow. You have the one website is it Lebow?
.ca.
Lebow.ca, and of course
The senior agent.
at thesenioragent.com, which is one of your passions, is
That's my
teaching.
passion.
After gaining all this experience, is sharing your wealth of knowledge. So people can get a hold of you, I guess, through either website. Barry, thank you so much for coming on the show today
Thank
on
you.
Keeping It Real with Gary and I. We're going to be back in just a moment with the King, Daryl King himself, a man who has been in real estate for over 20 years. He's got currently about 23 real estate agents working for him. So he knows his way around a real estate deal, and he can probably offer some great tips for some of our real estate viewers. Hang in there, we'll be back in just a moment.